Hi, today we're going to be talking about open world games. Now, the term open world games has been thrown around since the 1980s with The Legend of Zelda being released, but at that point the term open world game was like a loose description of a game due to the vague definition of open world. But it wasn't until 2001 where the genre would have a standard for every other game with the release of Grand Theft Auto 3. Grand Theft Auto 3 set a blueprint for every other open world game by having an open seamless map with NPCs. At the time, IGN said the game was on a scale that was truly epic. Since then, open world games have only gotten bigger and more popular. Multiple open world games have become the best-selling games of all time and also the highest rated games of all time. But none of these games are perfect, and I don't like that. So today we are going to be going to my lab and we are going to build a hot, spicy game.
Baby, don't hit me up, tryna finish it up. Maybe I can use a little more time. Can't be answer right here, gotta keep all the bins. Wishing I can take a sip and rewind. Gotta put on quite the show. So pricey,
Welcome. Let me just put this on real quick. Hi, welcome to my lab. Okay, to start off this video, I'm going to be dividing open world games into 4 sections using this 4-way Venn diagram. The first section is the fantasy open world setting. These games are usually the most immersive and they are my favorite subgenre. Games that are in this section include Skyrim, Breath of the Wild, and Monster Hunter World. Also The Witcher 3, but I haven't played that one. The next one is the modern open world setting. This usually takes place in a city environment like Los Angeles or New York. There are some exceptions though, like the Far Cry series. These games also include modern technology like cell phones and cars. Games in this series are Grand Theft Auto, Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4, and Sleeping Dogs. The next category is the historic and prehistoric setting. This has a name so self-explanatory that I'm not going to explain it. Games in this category include Ghost of Tsushima, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and Far Cry Primal. And the fourth and final section is the altered reality / futuristic setting. There aren't that many games in this category because they're probably the riskiest to make. Games in this category include the Fallout series, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Cyberpunk. Okay, now that we have all of our games categorized, let's go on to the most important part of an open world game. The open world. My world would be a fantasy world like Breath of the Wild and Skyrim, and it'd have a lot of natural beauty in it. The map wouldn't be too big as to have a bunch of mindless NPCs everywhere, but it wouldn't be so small that you could explore it in a couple of days. My map would probably be a little bit on the bigger side, not huge, but a little bit bigger, and I would make sure I used every square inch of it to its fullest potential. I think Breath of the Wild does a really good job of that by adding shrines and a bunch of just random puzzles across the map, even on the borders. I'm still discovering stuff in this game and I've been playing it for 150 hours. I realize this video is just going to be me sucking Breath of the Wild's dick because I think it's the closest thing we have to a perfect open world game, but let's just keep going. In my game, I'd add puzzles around the map that if you beat them, it'll help you upgrade and improve through the game. I'd have some type of thing like Far Cry where there's enemy camps and convoys around the map. When you beat the enemy camps, you'd get loot, and when you rescue some hostages, you get some money or something, I don't know. Maybe you get like a dildo launcher, I'm not sure. My world would also have little towns that you could go to interact with people. Maybe you can make some friends, maybe you can get a lover, I don't know. There'd also be places to buy some clothes or some food or just any item, maybe trade and sell stuff to get some money. I'd also have some major cities around the map, probably like 4 or 5 of them, that would have specific story beats there. There'd also be characters there that would help push the story along and you can only meet in those cities. I think I'd have the cities laid out similar to Breath of the Wild where they're each in some type of elemental place. Like in Breath of the Wild, there's a city in the volcano and there's also a city in the desert. I think this could add some type of risk reward thing or make it harder to get to these cities. Okay, now it's time to talk about my well-written story. And by well-written story, I mean not well-written story, because there will barely be a story. I want my game to be structured similar to Breath of the Wild, where you get this one goal at the beginning of the game to defeat something, save something, whatever, and as you go along the game, you slowly get closer to that. Now, it could have done a Red Dead style story with good characters and a good narrative, but in my opinion, that doesn't really fit an open world setting the same that a very loose story does. There will probably be some characters along the way that you meet that will push you towards that final objective of yours, but they're not going to be like super detailed main characters. Simple story with a final goal. That's all I need. Okay, now it's time to talk about gameplay. The gameplay of my game will revolve around freedom and discovery of physics. Something that'll come to you naturally instead of a text box that pops up on the screen. Kind of like in Breath of the Wild, when you light the grass on fire, you can get an upstream of wind and you can fly into an enemy camp. Maybe in my game, you can take a piece of bread and put water on it, and then it'll expand, and then you can jump on it and bounce really high. But then when you bounce really high, it just ends up the bread is soggy, so then you fall and you land on the bread and then you die. I think that would be pretty cool. I would also want weather and elements to affect you. So if you're in a cold mountain, you need a big old jacket. If you're in a hot place, you need less clothes. Maybe when it starts raining, you need to get yourself an umbrella. I would also want some type of object that can help you control items, kind of like a Gmod physics gun. I would want it to only work with specific items, not every item, because then the game would kind of be broken. Maybe another item will let you like push momentum onto something so it'll shoot out far. Also a grappling hook. My game needs a grappling hook. And I need a parachute or a glider or one of those like flying squirrel suits, so when you climb to the top of a mountain with your grappling hook, you can jump off and fly away. If my game doesn't have that, it's not being made, and I won't sell it. There would also need to be another type of transportation in my game other than walking or gliding. Probably a car or a horse. Or I don't know how a car would fit into a fantasy game. It'd probably be a horse. Maybe you could fly a dragon. You know what? I'm gonna put a dragon in my game that lets you fly just like the Never-Ending Story. Okay, now to the final part of the video, and also my favorite part. Weapons. Swords, katanas, spears, bows, you name it, it might be in the game. I think I'd rather have bows and guns because you can have a variety of ammo with arrows. Like you can put a bomb on an arrow and then shoot it and then it'll explode. I know you can get like RPGs, but I kind of like bows better. I would also have swords and katanas in my game. I'd make it so there's some type of combo move that you can do so it has a cool animation, or maybe it does extra damage. I'd also have some type of like power up that loads over time, and then you click some buttons and it like insta kills an enemy, kind of like Spider-Man or Ghost of Tsushima. I'd also want elemental swords, fire swords, ice swords, electric swords, you name it, it's going to be in the game. I think I'd only put like one of each elemental sword on the map, and it'd be in like a really hard place, like in the middle of a volcano or at the top of the snowiest mountain in the game. So then it's like a challenge to get up there, and then when you get up there, it's a reward. Okay, that's about everything for this video. I think we can all agree that my open world game is the best. It'll have swords, bows, grappling hooks, dragons, no cars, dragons, and umbrellas. I spent a lot of time on this video and I wrote out a script for it, and I think I put a lot of thought into it over the past couple weeks, and I don't know if this ends up looking good. It probably won't, but thanks for watching anyways if you made it this far. If you liked this video, please leave a like, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe, and bye.
I told you it's game over. Only like you when you're sober. Had to cut you off, now I don't give a fuck about you.